The journey to English fluency is not a sprint, but a marathon, and the most successful language learners have discovered a secret that often surprises beginners. Listening is just as important as speaking, if not more so. While many people focus exclusively on practicing their speaking skills, the true foundation of fluent communication lies in developing exceptional listening abilities first. This comprehensive guide will explore how the simple act of listening more can dramatically transform your speaking skills and help you achieve the English fluency you've always dreamed of. The listening-speaking connection. Understanding the foundation. Before we dive into practical strategies, it's essential to understand why listening plays such a crucial role in speaking improvement. When you listen to native English speakers, your brain is doing far more than simply processing words. You're absorbing pronunciation patterns, learning natural rhythm and intonation, picking up commonly used expressions, and understanding how sentences are structured in real-world contexts. Think about how children learn their first language. They spend approximately 2 years listening before they start forming complete sentences. During this time, their brains are building massive databases of sounds, words, and patterns. While adult language learners don't need 2 years of silent listening, the principle remains the same. Input must precede output. You cannot speak what you haven't first heard and internalized. When you expose yourself to authentic English regularly, you're training your ear to recognize the nuances of the language. You begin to notice how native speakers link words together, where they place emphasis, and how their tone changes to convey different meanings. This auditory information becomes the template your brain uses when it's time for you to speak. Without sufficient listening practice, your speaking will always sound stilted and unnatural because you lack the reference points that come from extensive exposure. The science behind listening and language acquisition. Neuroscience research has revealed fascinating insights into how our brains process and acquire language. When you listen to English, multiple areas of your brain activate simultaneously. The auditory cortex processes the sounds, while Broca's area and Wernicke's area work together to comprehend meaning and prepare for language production. The more you listen, the stronger these neural pathways become. One particularly important concept is comprehensible input, a term coined by linguist Stephen Krashen. This refers to language that is slightly above your current level, but still understandable through context. When you consistently expose yourself to comprehensible input through listening, your brain naturally acquires new vocabulary and grammatical structures without the need for explicit memorization or study. This is why people who immerse themselves in English-speaking environments often improve more rapidly than those who only study textbooks. Moreover, listening helps develop what linguists call implicit knowledge of language. This is the intuitive understanding that allows you to know something sounds right without being able to explain why. Native speakers rely heavily on implicit knowledge, which is why they can often detect errors even if they don't know the grammatical rule being violated. By listening extensively, you build the same intuitive sense for English.
Daily listening habits that transform your fluency. Creating a daily listening routine doesn't require hours of dedicated study time. The key is to integrate English listening into activities you already do. Start your morning by listening to an English podcast while preparing breakfast or commuting to work. Choose topics that genuinely interest you, whether that's true crime, business, comedy, or science. When you're engaged with the content, learning becomes effortless because you're focused on understanding the message rather than treating it as a language exercise. Throughout your day, look for opportunities to switch your entertainment consumption to English. Watch your favorite TV shows or movies in English with English subtitles rather than subtitles in your native language. This forces your brain to connect the sounds you hear with the written words you see, reinforcing both listening and reading skills simultaneously. Start with shows that have clear dialogue and relatively simple vocabulary, then gradually move to more challenging content. Music is another powerful tool for developing your listening skills. Songs embed language in your memory through melody and repetition, making them incredibly effective for learning vocabulary and expressions. Create playlists of English songs you love, look up the lyrics, and sing along. Pay attention to how words are pronounced in songs versus in normal speech. While singing, pronunciation can sometimes be exaggerated or unclear, the rhythm and flow of language and music helps you develop a natural sense of English cadence. Consider incorporating audiobooks into your routine, especially if you have a commute or enjoy walking. Choose books at an appropriate level. If you're struggling to understand more than 30% of what you hear, the material's too difficult and will lead to frustration rather than learning. Conversely, if you understand everything effortlessly, challenge yourself with something slightly more advanced. The sweet spot is material where you understand the general meaning but encounter new words and phrases regularly. Active listening techniques for maximum improvement. Not all listening is created equal. Passive listening, where English plays in the background while you focus on other tasks, has some value for familiarizing yourself with the sounds and rhythm of the language. However, active listening is where the real transformation happens. Active listening means giving your full attention to what you're hearing and engaging with it meaningfully. One powerful active listening technique is shadowing. This involves listening to a short segment of English audio and immediately repeating what you heard, trying to match the pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm as closely as possible. Start with short phrases or sentences, pause the audio, and repeat. As you become more comfortable, try shadowing without pausing, speaking simultaneously with the audio. This technique forces you to process language quickly and trains your mouth muscles to produce English sounds more naturally.
Another effective approach is dictation practice. Listen to a short audio clip, perhaps 30 seconds to a minute, and write down exactly what you hear. Then check your transcription against the actual transcript. This exercise reveals gaps in your listening comprehension and helps you learn to distinguish between similar sounds. You'll discover which words you consistently mishear and can then focus on learning those specific sounds or vocabulary items. Try the listen and predict method when watching videos or listening to podcasts. Pause the audio at interesting points and predict what the speaker will say next. This engages your brain actively with the content and helps you start thinking in English rather than translating from your native language. Even when your predictions are wrong, you're building valuable skills in understanding context and anticipating language patterns. Consider keeping a listening journal where you note new expressions, interesting phrases, or words you didn't understand. After each listening session, review your notes and look up unfamiliar items. This reflection process helps transfer information from short-term to long-term memory. You can also record yourself speaking some of these new expressions to practice using them in context. From listening to speaking, bridging the gap. The transition from listening to speaking can feel intimidating, but the extensive listening practice you've already done has prepared you more than you realize. Your brain has absorbed countless patterns in examples, and now it's time to activate that passive knowledge. The key is to start speaking without obsessing over perfection. Begin by talking to yourself in English. Describe what you're doing as you go about your daily routine. Narrate your thoughts, plans, and observations out loud. This private practice allows you to experiment with language without the pressure of an audience. You might feel silly at first, but this technique is used by professional actors, public speakers, and yes, successful language learners around the world. Record yourself speaking and then listen back. This can be uncomfortable initially, but it's one of the most valuable tools for improvement. When you listen to your own speech, you'll notice areas where your pronunciation differs from native speakers, places where you hesitate, and patterns in your mistakes. You can then target these specific areas for improvement. Try recording yourself telling a story, describing a picture, or explaining a concept. Then compare your recording to how a native speaker might express the same ideas. Engage in conversation exchanges with native English speakers or other learners. Language exchange platforms and apps connect you with partners around the world.
The beauty of conversation practice is that it forces you to produce language in real time, just as listening to others forces you to comprehend in real time. You'll make mistakes, and that's not just okay, it's essential. Each error is a learning opportunity that helps refine your understanding of the language. Don't underestimate the power of imitation. Choose a speaker whose English you admire, perhaps a YouTuber, podcast host, or actor. Study how they speak by watching or listening to their content repeatedly. Notice their intonation patterns, common phrases, and speaking style, then practice imitating them. This isn't about losing your own voice or pretending to be someone else. It's about incorporating successful communication strategies into your own speaking. Overcoming common obstacles. Many learners become discouraged when they don't see immediate results from their listening practice. Remember that language acquisition happens gradually, often below the level of conscious awareness. You might not notice improvement day by day, but if you compare your abilities now to where you were 3 months ago, the progress becomes clear. Trust the process and maintain consistency even when progress feels slow. Another common challenge is understanding different accents and speaking speeds. English is spoken around the world with countless variations in accent, and native speakers often talk very quickly in casual conversation. Instead of seeing this diversity as an obstacle, view it as an opportunity to become a more versatile communicator. Expose yourself to English from various regions: British, American, Australian, Indian, and others. Start with clearer, slower speech and gradually increase the difficulty. Fear of making mistakes is perhaps the biggest barrier to speaking practice. Many learners understand English well but remain silent because they're afraid of embarrassment. Shift your mindset. Mistakes are not failures, but rather data points that inform your learning. Native speakers make mistakes too, and most people appreciate your effort to communicate in their language. The most important thing is conveying your message, not achieving grammatical perfection. Some learners also struggle with the gap between their listening comprehension and speaking ability. You might understand English movies and podcasts quite well, but feel tongue-tied when it's your turn to speak. This gap is completely normal. Receptive skills, listening and reading, typically develop faster than productive skills, speaking and writing. Don't let this discourage you. Keep listening to build your receptive skills while simultaneously working on production through speaking practice. Over time, your speaking will catch up.
Creating your personal English environment. Immersion is the ideal way to learn a language, but most people don't have the opportunity to move to an English-speaking country. However, you can create a personal immersion environment regardless of where you live. The key is to make English a natural part of your daily life rather than something you only encounter during study time. Change the language settings on your phone, computer, and social media accounts to English. This simple switch means you'll encounter English dozens of times throughout the day in a practical, functional context. You'll learn the language of technology, commands, and everyday interface navigation. Vocabulary that's increasingly important in our digital world. Follow English language social media accounts related to your interests. Whether you're passionate about cooking, fitness, fashion, gaming, or any other hobby, there are countless content creators producing material in English. This strategy works because you're learning language within a context you care about, making the vocabulary immediately relevant and memorable. Comment on posts in English to practice writing and engage with a global community. Join online communities where English is the common language. Forums, Discord servers, Reddit communities, and other platforms bring together people from around the world who share common interests. Participating in these communities gives you authentic reading practice and opportunities for written communication, both of which support your listening and speaking development. Consider finding a language learning partner or forming a small study group. Having accountability and shared goals with others makes the learning process more enjoyable and helps you stay motivated. You can watch English videos together, discuss what you've learned, and practice speaking with each other in a supportive, low-pressure environment. Measuring your progress and staying motivated. Tracking your improvement is essential for maintaining motivation over the long term. Create specific, measurable goals for your listening and speaking practice. Instead of vague goals like improve my English, set concrete targets such as listen to 30 minutes of English content daily or have a 10-minute English conversation once a week. These specific goals make progress tangible and achievable. Keep a learning journal where you document new vocabulary, expressions you've mastered, and milestones you've reached. Note when you successfully understand a movie without subtitles, when a native speaker compliments your pronunciation, or when you realize you're thinking in English rather than translating. These victories, large and small, provide motivation during challenging periods. Periodically assess your abilities with the same material. Choose a podcast episode or video that was challenging when you first started, then return to it after a few months of consistent practice. You'll be amazed at how much easier it has become, providing concrete evidence of your improvement. This comparison technique is far more encouraging than focusing on how far you still have to go. Remember that motivation naturally fluctuates. There will be days when you don't feel like practicing, and that's perfectly human. On those days, commit to just 10 minutes of listening or speaking. Often, once you start, you'll find the energy to continue. If not, 10 minutes is still better than nothing, and maintaining the daily habit is more important than the duration of any single practice session. The long-term path to fluency. Becoming fluent in English is a marathon, not a sprint, and the listening-first approach is a sustainable strategy that builds solid foundations for genuine, lasting fluency. Unlike cramming grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary lists, extensive listening creates deep, intuitive knowledge of the language that will serve you for life. As you continue your journey, remember that fluency isn't a destination, but a continuum. Even native speakers continue learning new words and expressions throughout their lives. Your goal isn't to know everything or speak perfectly, it's to communicate effectively, understand clearly, and continually improve. Every hour you spend listening is an investment in your future speaking ability.
The connection between listening and speaking is undeniable. When you listen more, you absorb the rhythm, melody, and patterns of English. You build a mental library of expressions and vocabulary. You train your ear to understand different accents and speaking styles. And most importantly, you develop the implicit knowledge that allows you to speak naturally and confidently. Start today by choosing one listening activity you can commit to daily. Whether it's a morning podcast, evening TV show, or afternoon music session, make it a non-negotiable part of your routine. Complement this listening practice with regular speaking activities, even if that means talking to yourself at first. Be patient with yourself, celebrate small victories, and trust that consistent effort will yield remarkable results. Your journey to English fluency begins with a simple decision: to listen more intentionally, speak more courageously, and practice more consistently. The path is clear, the tools are available, and your success is simply a matter of dedication and time. Start listening today and watch your speaking transform tomorrow.